So the MOU he had already signed with the ministry, I have to succumb and hear his case. He justified what he was doing, and I didn't need to be convinced because of the case challenges burden, sickle cell disease in infants and all that. I once visited his foundation and we tried to support him to clear some part of arrears he has incurred by procuring reagents and all the people that were supporting him, his staff, So we started engaging. He was bent on trying to push sickle cell agenda in the country to the highest level. Before we were aware, he has actually joined hands with one big global pharmaceutical company, Novartis, to try to work on sickle cell with support from them and some medication they were introducing. In fact, it was through Professor Frimpong's efforts that hydroxyurea was introduced into the system as a new medicine for sickle cell patients. And it is working in our hospitals even as I speak. He did an MOU that was initiated by the Vice President last 3 years when we went to Davos. They followed him up and joined hands with him. Now he has managed to even join hands with another foundation, the Clinton Foundation, who is trying to expand the sickle cell issues Dr. Frimpong, Professor Frimpong, is doing in country. So he knew how to search for resources. And when he was hard hit, he would come to the ministry for some extra support. And because of the good work he was doing and how critical sickle cell issues are in the country, we have to find a way to support him. I heard of his death 2 or 3 days ago. And when was it Dr. Belfo called me and said, Professor Frimpong is passed, I shouted. I just couldn't believe. He was strong. We were with him all the time. But when he fell ill, we didn't hear the ministry. It was only yesterday when I saw his funeral announcement. They were saying that he had protracted illness. But I think he lied in bed for a while. We didn't know. Professor, we are praying will not take sickle cell research and the way he was trying to test and fight sickle cell and his advocacy will not go with him. I want to believe that Professor left a legacy. That's his foundation, the staff that he was using. But lately, through my efforts as well, I managed to convince Professor Frimpong that we will need to network with him, so that anytime he's not present, we'll have others who know what he was doing and have taken it up. Ideally, we're just about introducing sickle cell and testing into infants into our mainstream government facilities. And unfortunately, Professor has passed on. We will forever remember him when it comes to sickle cell issues.
Indeed, we'll forever remember Professor Kwaku Frimpong Ohene for his great deeds he actually made towards the fight or the management of sickle cell in the country. We are told that the burden of sickle cell disease is actually of public health concern because 1 in 3 Ghanaian is either a carrier or has sickle cell, and even 2% of children born in Ghana have sickle cell diseases, and it's for when you are born with sickle cell, it's actually for life, and managing it throughout, I mean, the crisis stages and all that, it's such a huge burden on families. Today I have with me Madam Dr. Mary Ekia Ampoma. She's the CEO of the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease Organizations in Ghana. Apart from that, she's also a lecturer at the School of Public Health at the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. She used to be a doctor or a consulting doctor at the Adult Sickle Cell Clinic at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and now she's at the Hohoe Municipal Hospital seeing both children and adults managing sickle sickle cell disease. You're welcome to our studios, madam.
Thank you.
Just paint a picture for us what the situation is now, since you've been attending to patients at where you are in Hawaii.
Before I do that, let me take this opportunity to thank all our viewers, and also to thank you, GBC, for giving me this awesome platform. I'm grateful. And also, I want to say something small about Professor Ohene.
Of course, go ahead. We all miss him.
When I talk about him, I become emotional because I first met him in 2010. Then I was doing my master's program, and the first conference he organized in Ghana, I was there. That was when I first met him. But when it comes to advocacy, it was in 2013, 2014 when I met him, and he's been my coach. He's been my mentor when it comes to advocating for patients. His passion, his zeal, his commitment to the SED community is awesome. And he's left a big legacy. But one thing that I'm happy about is that we are going to continue. We are going to make sure that wherever he is, he will look down upon us and say yes.
And smile. His legacies live on.
Yes, we are continuing everything that he left and even doing more. So I'm grateful for meeting him and his family. I know that they are down, but they should know that he has touched lives, not only sickle cell patients,
saved millions.
But he touched my life. He was the one that introduced me to the global advocacy, and I'll forever be thankful for him. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. So how does the prevalence of sickle cell, especially in the region you're working with, the Volta region, how bad is it?
Okay, thank you so much. Now, when it comes to sickle cell, because I'm a global CEO, I'll first start from the global, then
okay, trickle it down. Yeah.
Yes, to Ghana. So on the global front, the last statistics that was brought out, about 25 million people live with sickle cell disease.
That's huge.
Then out of this 25, about 20 to 15% of them live in Africa. Okay, so if you look at the huge burden, the burden is more in Africa. Then when we come to Sub-Sahara, yes, we have Nigeria having more. Then when you come to Ghana, we say that 2% of children living with born every year live with sickle cell disease. But I think that statistics was somewhere 28. So 1995 when newborn screening started because of Professor Ohene Frimpong in Kumasi.
Yes.
So as of now, if we want to look at the current statistics, I think that it has gone beyond the 2%, and even that it was just in Ashanti region. What about Greater Accra? If we want to look at it that way, what about
the national
Volta?
Picture? Yeah.
Yes, so that's why I'm saying that the 2% is an estimate for Ashanti region. That was where that study was done. But if you want to replicate it in probably all the regions, it goes beyond. Looking at a population where about 30% of us are carriers of sickle cell disease, but most of us don't even know. So that is the burden. So, but then even with this 2% that we want to even look at, we have a lot of children and adults who couldn't be diagnosed or who don't know their genotype. So we have a number of people who don't even know their genotype, who are still intermarrying, and also adding to the burden because they are giving birth to more sickle cell children, adding to the burden of the individual themselves, the family, and also the community and the nation at large. So that is where we are when it comes to burden. Then if you want to talk about the burden of living with sickle cell disease, yes, even the clinical manifestation, sickle cell affects every organ. So sickle cell can affect the brain, so it can give rise to strokes. So when we come to strokes, we have the silent ones, because there's no paralysis.
Yeah.
So the person is okay physically, but when you engage them cognitively, you realize that they have memory challenges, they have visuospatial challenges, they have attention, and even sometimes they have reasoning and judgment challenges. So the stroke can affect even babies. That is how severe sickle cell is. Then it can affect the eye, retinopathy. It can affect the ear, it can affect the teeth, it can affect the heart, it can affect the spleen, it can affect the hips. So we have, we call it avascular bone necrosis. So they have challenges. You see them limping. Sometimes they will use something to support themselves. Then it can also affect the legs. So you have ulcers. Okay. So when it comes to sickle cell, it is it can affect every organ. That is why it is important that those living with it, we make sure that they have comprehensive care, because that is very important. That's the only way we can improve on their quality of life. So for instance, if you are a child and you are going through all this, that means that you're not going to have a social life. So when it comes to people living with sickle cell disease, whether adults or children, they have challenges with their social life. They are not able to, for instance, in school, some of my young adolescents used to say, oh, my teacher said they shouldn't play with me because when they play with me, I'm going to get crisis. But that is stigma. That is stigma right there. So they have challenges with even living their normal life, as children, as adults. Then also, aside that, sometimes they get crisis, they are not able to go to school, so it affects them academically. Apart from the strokes that they might also suffer, that will affect their academic work and will not be able to really do well because they will not be diagnosed early, so that remedial interventions can be put there when it comes to schooling. Then aside education, even it can also affect them in terms of mental health, because if you have a lot of people stigmatizing you, right, people think that you die early, so as you are born they are just looking on when will this one go, you know, and you live to be 40 and you are still wondering, when am I going?
I actually know of a judge who's lived up to her 80s, late 80s.
Oh, we have,
who is also sickle cell.
We have a 96-year-old.
Yes.
There,
so
right.
we'll look at how they are able to take care of themselves to get to that state. But before we even go on into the nitty-gritties, I would want my public to understand what it means to have sickle cell. For instance, if you are AS or SS or AC, what does it mean? For which reason? Probably most people don't understand and even do not know why it is essential to get to know of your status before you even meet your partner or you get married. And because I mean, when they get married, the chances of having a sickle cell child is 1 in 4 babies, and it could be that all your 4 children are sickle cell. I mean, it's, pardon me for even thinking it's a funny thing, but it isn't. It's quite serious. People do not know their status. They do not understand what it means to have AS. And
so when we say somebody has sickle cell, let me just break it down. So in the blood, right, if you put a drop of blood under the microscope, you can see red blood cells that are around, you can see white blood cells, you can see platelets, and then the water comes. But we want to talk about the red blood cell because that is where sickle cell affect. Now because in the red blood cell there's what we call the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is what picks oxygen, right? When you breathe in, it takes it to the heart, it mixes with the blood there, then the heart pumps it to every cell, every tissue. Every cell, every tissue relies on oxygen to be able to survive. Now this hemoglobin in there, we have the normal one, and the only normal one is hemoglobin A. Okay, but they said before Christ came, right, in these tropics, people were dying of malaria. So, you know, the body has its own way of protecting us. So, in the hemoglobin, there are chains of protein. So, there was a change in there that will make people survive when they have malaria then. So, it caused other types of hemoglobin to be formed. So we have hemoglobin S, we have hemoglobin C, hemoglobin D, and the rest. But the only normal hemoglobin is hemoglobin A. Now this hemoglobin, the other hemoglobins, they call them abnormal hemoglobins that was formed. They have complications, but the S has the most of the complications. Now we say that somebody has sickle cell when the person has inherited at least one of these S hemoglobin from
the parent,
from your parent, because you can't take it from anywhere, from your parent. Now, so if somebody is somebody has a genotype of SS, we are not talking about blood groups, we are talking about your hemoglobin type, that hemoglobin that picks oxygen. We are talking about that, the hemoglobin type. That is what causes sickle cell. So if somebody is SS, it means that the person has inherited two of the S's, right? One from the mother, one from the father, right? If somebody is SC, it means taking one maybe from the S from the mom, SC from the dad. Now, we want to talk about carriers. When we want to talk about carriers such as AS, AC, AD, whatever, for them, they don't have sickle cell. It's just that they have one normal hemoglobin and one abnormal. So they have the normal one, which is the A, then they have the abnormal one that can be S, that can be C. Then we should know that it's not the individual that is abnormal, it's the hemoglobin type that they have. That's why we can refer to it as abnormal. Right? So if two people who don't even know that they are carriers, because anytime you tell them to go and test, they'll be like, oh, I don't have sickle cell, I don't have sickle cell. But you have one abnormal hemoglobin, because all hemoglobin comes in pairs. If somebody say, oh, I have a normal hemoglobin, that means the person is AA. But if you are AS, AC, AD, A with any of the abnormal hemoglobin, that means you are a carrier, right? So if these two people, maybe they meet, they didn't test, they gave birth and the child is SS, it means the child took one of your abnormal hemoglobin from the mom, one from the dad. That's why the child is SS. If the child is SC, it means that the person took one abnormal either from the mom or the dad. C, either from the mom or the dad. That's why the child is SC. So people are like, oh, I didn't carry the baby, it is from your family. No, that child took one from you, took one from the mom. That is why we are saying that everybody should get tested. There should be newborn screening, so that as you are born, 3 days they do it. As you are growing up, you know that I am SC, I am I am AS, I am AC. So that as you are growing, you know that, okay, if I get married to somebody who is also a carrier, because the person is AS or AC, that I can give birth to sickle cell patient, then it will inform your decision if you want to go ahead and populate Ghana with sickle cell patient. When you have that freedom to choose, right? So that's why we are doing more education. People should know, because if they don't know, because I see couples who come for the first time, that was when that beautiful baby was born, then they knew that, oh, we are carriers because our baby is SS. And you see them crying because they wish that they knew, so that they could have made an informed decision.
Okay, so when a child is born with sickle cell, for instance, does the child present with some telltale signs that the parent see, or the child just looks like a normal healthy baby?
Oh, definitely. When you are born, you look healthy, but as time goes on, you start presenting with certain clinical manifestation of sickle cell. You start getting crisis. Sometimes they have swollen limbs, so that is one, yellowish eyes and all that, and that can give a signal that yes. And sometimes to yes, that can give a signal that yes, this child has, and they be falling sick most of the time, very frequently, and because they are babies, you will not be able to know that they are having crisis or not, but they will be crying a lot. So all those things can help them know that this child,
Let's talk
through
about
diagnosis.
the management of such a child when born.
Okay, so let me say this. In Africa, about 5 years ago, we lose about 50 to 78% of children born with sickle cell disease, because usually they are not diagnosed because there's no newborn screening.
Yeah.
Because when a child has sickle, when a baby is born with sickle cell disease and they are diagnosed, usually one of their challenges is infection. So then they have to start treatment very early. They have to give them penicillin that will help with the infection and all that. If that is not done very early, you tend to lose them. So we lose most of our children with sickle cell disease who weren't diagnosed between 0 to 5 years quickly. And 5 years ago, about 50 to 78% of them die before 5 years.
And that was one of the things Professor Ohene was trying to avert by trying to pilot the newborn screening for sickle cell. It's not been adopted nationwide, has it?
Not yet, but the good news is he did a lot, because at first it was just in Kumasi, right? And now they moved to Korle Bu.
Korle Bu, yes.
Korle Bu started, and I am happy to tell you that in Hohoe they have a pilot there. So we've also started our newborn screening there, whole pilot. So there are pockets of it, but what we want is a nationwide, where no matter where that baby is born, whether in my village, your village, that child will be diagnosed early if the person has sickle cell disease, and management will start quickly so that that child will live. Yes, so that is what, but where Professor Ohene Frimpong got to, he's made a huge impact, because then in the last 2 years it didn't used to be anywhere that much, but now it has moved, and I think it is in about 10 regions now. So we are just praying that by the end of the year we will have a nationwide newborn screening. That would be great.
Before I move into other interventions when it comes to the treatment or management of sickle cell, I would want you to paint for us the burden of a family managing any of their loved ones or a member of the family with sickle cell, the kind of anticipation they have all the time, because it's either, you never know when the person will set into crisis. They are always supposed to be on folic acids, and even the cost involved in management. Let's paint that picture, and then we move to the other intervention.
I want to say that it is not all sickle cell patients that go through what I've earlier on described, because even with living with any condition, not just sickle cell, your makeup, that individual's makeup also sort of impact on the presentation of that condition. So we have sickle cell patients that are very healthy, they have a very good quality life, not just because of their genetics, but nature too, because nature, the kind of support that they get from the medical support, from family, and also the fact that they have educated themselves, so they are aware of their condition and they do a lot with it. So, but then I want to paint a picture of maybe you being a caregiver. So a caregiver can be parents, can be any relative, or even your partner. You might be married to somebody who is living with sickle cell disease. So the issue is, as you said, they don't know when they are going to get crisis. So I mean, if a mother has a child who is about 8 years and is getting crisis, it means that day, right, that child will not go to school. He or she has to be taken to the hospital. you don't have to go to work if you are working, especially if you are working for somebody else, if you are not doing your own job. So it means you are going to lose time when it comes to, and if you are doing your own job too, you are going to lose money because that day you will not be going. And also looking at the trauma of seeing your child crying, being in pain, and sometimes when it comes to the financial burden, because for instance before the new rollout of the 2 years, it was just for 2 years, and it's over.
It's over. So we'll talk about it, because now patients have to buy their own hydroxyurea.
Yes, so I mean, if that child probably is getting frequent crisis and so was put on hydroxyurea when the free one came, now the free is gone last year around October, so now patients have to buy it, families have to buy it.
How expensive is it?
The last time I checked, even in Hohoi, it's like 3 cedis per tablet. So depending if they are children, I think they take 500 milligrams so a day. So if it's 3 cedi and it's taking 1, so times 30. Okay, so if you have more than one child living with sickle cell disease, if this one gets sick today, the other one gets sick the next day, so the financial burden is huge. Aside that, when it comes to stigma, because up till now, even though we are doing more education, people think that it is an ancestral curse, right? And people think that they will die early, and they label them as sickless. That's why I'm saying that a sickle cell doesn't have a face. Just like depression, we say depression doesn't have a face, because you might see somebody, you think that sickle cell patients are only slim and they have yellowish eyes. No, you have sickle cell patients who are plump, who don't have yellowish eyes, who are living their healthy life. So that stigma of they dying early, they being slim, that they can't give birth. I have my patients who have like 4 kids, 3 kids. Okay, so all these stigma, we call it myth and misconceptions, it gives rise to stigma and discrimination. So for instance, some of my adult sickle cell patients don't disclose their status at work, because if you do, you will have challenges even moving up, climbing up in your career, because then when it comes to a position, you say, oh, you have sickle cell disease, you are a sickler, I won't give that to you. But even saying that somebody is a sickler, is stigma right
so
there.
The stigma is so high than even the prevalence of the disease itself.
Yes, because we are not doing much education. When people are educated about a condition, right, when they are educated, knowledge is power. They tend to learn a lot. Then it sort of makes them more passionate and more empathetic towards those people, wanting to help. Okay, because when people don't understand something, then they tend to stigmatize and discriminate because they don't understand it. Then they will say that, oh, it is an ancestral curse, or a demon possessed this person, and this person has sickle cell disease.
Sometimes the entire family is shunned.
Yes, nobody wants to marry there, but they don't know that it doesn't take one person, it doesn't take just the woman or just the man. They both bring the abnormal hemoglobins. So that's why that child has sickle cell disease. And I know people who have sickle cell disease, as I said, with strong support, medical support, and the first and foremost is for them to be aware, for them to understand their condition, and with great support from family, they live a good quality life. They fulfill their purpose.
Okay, let me ask you about one intervention, which is the bone marrow transplant, that gives them probably frees them from sickle cell disease for life. The stem cell transplant. Even how common it is in Ghana, how affordable it is, what are the side effects there are if those who have probably done it, what is the quality of life they are living. We'll talk about that, but let me announce my phone lines and WhatsApp line for contributions from the public. Our phone in line is 0264 000997 0264 000997. Our WhatsApp line is 055 744 6429 055 744 6429. The numbers will also be displayed on the screen, so you could contribute.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So for a very long time it was just the bone marrow transplant, or called the stem cell transplant, that we have for a cure for sickle cell. But now they are talking about genetic editing, and more clinical trials are going on. But let's talk about bone marrow or stem cell, because that has been in existence for a very long time. If you want to talk about accessibility, it's not accessible that much because it is expensive even outside. But because they have a different system, their healthcare system is different, those who want to opt to go through that procedure do that. But then it's not that, it's very expensive, not just in Ghana but globally. It is expensive. When it comes to Ghana too, it is expensive. Looking at our standard of living, it is expensive. Now I want to, when it comes, it's not that easy. It's not that easy going through that procedure. It's not a one-time thing. Like you have malaria, you've taken a tablet, 3 days, you are done. No, it is a whole procedure. It takes some time for you to say that somebody is cured. It's not 3 months. You can't say somebody is cured after 6 months. And it has complications because we have some not even going through. Okay, so you know, patients are very expectant. They know that, oh, I'm going to cure my sickle cell, then the procedure is started and everything, and it doesn't work. That brings depression.
Hold on to your thoughts. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, your name and where you are calling from, and
I'm the patron from Boston.
Okay, kindly tell us what you have to say concerning the subject.
Okay. Please, I wanted to know if both parents are essence. Is it possible to give them to AA?
Yes. Well, answer that.
When both patients,
both
parents are SS.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. It's not possible, please.
No.
But you can answer that. I thought it was.
When both parents are SS, it means that the man is bringing two S, and the woman is also bringing 2S. So the spermatozoa, all of them are carrying the S. Hemoglobin, and the eggs too that will be produced from the woman, they are all carrying the S. So if they fuse, all the children are going to be SS.
But if,
and let me also talk about the AS. Okay, so the man has A and a S. The woman has A and a S. So if the A of the man meets the A of the woman, it becomes AA. If the A of the man meets the S of the woman, it becomes AS. If the S of the man meets the A of the woman, AS. Then if the S meets the S of the woman, becomes SS. So people have this mentality that, oh, even when I'm AS and my husband is AS, when we give birth, one will be AA, two will be, maybe we are giving birth to 4, 2 will be AS, that's carriers, and 1 will be SS. No, it doesn't work that way, because we don't determine which egg is coming out from the woman that particular month, and which spermatozoa will run the fastest to go and fuse with that egg. So you don't determine that. So if you're not careful, all your children can be SS. So it doesn't go like 1:2:1. No, because every time it's like you are gambling, and it can be all SS. Right.
I hope she's answered right there. Okay, so we're talking about the stem cell transplant.
Yes, so we get some, as I said, it doesn't go through, so they have to go back. Then we get some too that they have complications. Okay, they have complications along the way. It can be anything. Some even have complications like burns, and all these things is part of the process. Some also develop other complications. Some also die through it. So it's not like 100% sure that if you go through it, you'll be able to. But we have some successful stories. I mean, some successes around stem cell, because it's been in existence for some time now. But we are looking at
There's another caller. Sorry about that. Hello, Felix. Good afternoon. Please tell us where you're calling from and give us your submissions, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to know what lifestyle
I can barely hear you. If you could turn down the volume of your set. If you could turn down the volume of the set, or I mean the phone is probably so close to you, yes, I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I still have feedback, but you go ahead. I will manage.
What I'm saying is, I would like to know the lifestyle that a career to be living, or what lifestyle a career avoiding.
Okay, so he wants to know what kind of lifestyle careers should live, and even did you say even those with the sickle cell traits, what kind of lifestyle they must live to maintain?
I just want to correct this misconception. People who have the trait don't have sickle cell. So if somebody has AS, unless he's talking about people living with sickle cell disease, but people who have the traits or are carriers don't have sickle cell disease, just that they have one abnormal hemoglobin and one normal that they can give to their offsprings, their children. That's the only. It's just a few percentage of them that sometimes get crisis. You can barely 1% that get crisis. But when it comes to carriers or traits, they don't have sickle cell. If he's talking about sickle cell patient, I'm sure that is what he was talking about. Yes. You know, lifestyle is very important, not just for sickle cell condition, but for every condition, especially for the chronic ones. That I say sickle cell is chronic because where I'm coming from, it's not curable because it is expensive, so a lot of people are managing it, so I say that it is chronic. Now, lifestyle is very important because when you are diagnosed, right, and caregivers do very well, because if you go to Korle Bu, because I have practiced in Korle Bu for a very long time, the children always come to the clinic. They come for routine checkup. They are on the hydroxyurea. Those who are on hydroxyurea, those who are on folic acid, even when you ask them, they know what they are on. It is when they transition to the adults, that is where probably they are adult now, so they are probably
carefree.
In Korle Bu, they come at 13 years old, okay, to the adult clinic. That is why transition is very important, because at 13 you are not an adult yet, but then when it comes to health, you are an adult. So they transition to the adult care, and that is where we get a lot of them not coming to clinic, not adhering to medication and everything, and also we lose a majority of people there. Studies have shown that a lot of people living with sickle cell disease are lost during the transition people, because when they transition, when they were in the adult, parents were always there guiding them. No, when they were children, sorry. And their caregivers too are so committed. But when you come to adult clinic, we are adults, and adults, we make our own decisions, you know. So that difference makes a lot of them don't even want to come to the clinic anymore, and they don't really adhere to most of the. But ideally, if you have sickle cell disease, there's some lifestyle that you have to. You have to make sure that you are always warm, so you wear good clothes. You wear clothes that will cover you, but you also have to make sure that you are not too hot. Too hot to come make you get crisis.
Let me take Sewa from Tema. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please tell us what you have to say.
Okay, I'm Sarah calling from Tema.
Yes.
I recently found out that I'm SC.
Okay.
And this that I don't think they recall when I got the hospital or the clinic, they become the sickle cell person, the sickle cell. Is it that serious that you should be SC? Is it the same as SS?
Okay. So how old are you, please?
I'm 30.
30, and you just found out you were SC.
Yeah.
Okay. So the doctor would explain.
They said
Okay.
I'm
Let's
AA.
finish.
Okay.
Recently, I went to the hospital and they I'm SC.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So how is the person?
I know it is not. I won't say that it is a shock for me, because when I was doing my PhD thesis, I wanted to look at those who come to the clinic to be registered, to the adult clinic, and I found out that there are two categories: those who are transitioning from other places, and also those who are coming to be newly registered because they are newly diagnosed when they are 18 years plus. Some of them are even 53 or so. But then in my PhD thesis, I followed them up, so I did qualitative, and I realized that they have all the symptoms, they were getting crisis and all
But they
that.
didn't know, and the doctors know.
Some of them knew, but their family, because of the stigma.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, as she said she's SC, but I would tell her to repeat that test in 6 months' time, because
Okay.
sometimes when you do the test, and also please go to a recognized place. So, for instance, in Kolebu, you can go there. You can go to the adult sickle cell clinic. They will do it for you. There are some recognized labs that do it properly, so that you are not SC and they will tell you are AA. And the SCs, most of the time, growing up, their complications are mild, because I told you that usually it's the S that has the most complications.
Yeah.
So if you have the C, which is also abnormal hemoglobin, but then it's better, so it sort of cushions you a bit. So growing up, you'll not be having all those challenges that the usual SS may have. So a lot of them, they knew that they are getting crisis. Sometimes they will say, I have rheumatism. It's not rheumatism, it's a sickle cell. And because it's not that severe, they tend to hide under it and not come for. And because we are not doing newborn screening, then we were what? They were passing through.
It could also be that misdiagnosis, because when you were telling us more about sickle cell early on, it kind of seemed like it was mimicking autoimmune diseases. So maybe they could have been misdiagnosed for other conditions without knowing it's actually sickle cell.
From my thesis, I always want to talk from experience and what other people have also reported on when it comes to published studies. Apart from my clinical practice, you see that some of them come in because probably they are going to maybe go for a job, and the job demanded that they do a sickling test, and they realize that they are SC, and the employer says go for treatment. I have some of my patients who came in at 28, 29 because of that. Others too came in because they were going to give birth, and you know when you're pregnant they do all those things. So majority of them came because of that, and others also came in because they had other complications apart from the crisis, because for the crisis probably they will be managing at home. If it's SC, it's not too severe growing up, so they might be managing it at home with painkillers, but they got retinopathy. The eye was challenged, so they have to then come, or they had avascular, or they had a leg ulcer, right? So these are what bring them. But in actual fact, when you meet them and you interrogate them, you realize that they have gotten the crisis so many times. They knew, but because of the stigma, some families will be like, let's hide it, we can use this to manage it.
One thing most people probably do not know is seeking psychological services in managing sickle cell conditions. They probably know about medication, getting money, or getting other money for other interventions, but seeking psychological the psychological aspect of the treatment, most people don't know, or even they probably would ignore it because they think that, oh, they are fine. Tell me about what you do, because as a psychologist and seeing sickle cell patients, what are some of the outstanding issues and how do you manage them? How do you get them to have the right mindset about themselves? Okay. We'll do that and then we'll talk about the upcoming conference.
Thank you so much. That is very good right there. Now, when it comes to sickle cell, it's not just sickle cell. With every chronic condition, the person needs psychological support. It's very crucial. So imagine you have sickle cell, you were born with it, you have all these complications, and managing condition is not just taking medication. Psychologically, the person has to be aware, the person has to accept his or a condition, be aware of the condition, and so that the person can learn more. That is an intelligent patient, so they'll be able to take very good care of themselves. So when it comes to management, they will know that they don't have to be cold, so they will make sure that always they are taking warm fluids, they are taking a lot of fluids, so that it will help them with their circulation. They know that they are supposed to take their medication, because that is what will help them prevent the crisis, and also add that they know that they have to attend clinic. You know, so, and I stress on that because I mean literature has it that men do not like going to the hospital. Yes. Not just sickle cell, but across board. It is only the women that come often. So you see that in certain conditions women live longer. Yes, because they come for routine checkup and they come often. Even in sickle cell, you realize that the men come when they are in crisis, but women come even when they are not in crisis. They just want to come for their routine checkups. So it is very important. And when it comes to psychological support that I was talking about, even the person's mentality about the condition is very important. So when they are aware, they are able to take good care of themselves, no matter how small they are. Then apart from that, we have support system. So the medical support at the hospital. They might be doing their job, but then what about the patient? The patient needs to understand. And also usually when they are diagnosed early, I mean when they are diagnosed late, they are referred to me. So that was where I do the education. And also
they're living in denial or something?
Some yes, but others too, they know. So they know that, okay, now I have been diagnosed, so I have to live with the condition. So acceptance, so we really help them to accept their condition. And if they have any complications, we will be able to help them live with this. Imagine you have leg ulcer bilateral and you are a woman, right? And that leg ulcer have been there for more than 10 years. You have to live with it, but then how do you live with it? You need psychological support. You need even psychological support to be able to take your medication every day, even when you are a child. To be able to take your folic acid, which is not the disease-modifying drug like hydroxyurea. For you to even take your folic acid every day, you need psychological support, right? Psychological understanding of why you are taking that. So you just don't take this medication, no. The person has to understand why and its relevance to them. Aside that, if a child who has suffered stroke, right, as a clinical psychologist, I come in because I'll be able to do a neuropsych assessment to know. Apart from neuroimaging, I always say this, neuroimaging doesn't give you the reality of the challenges that the person living with stroke is suffering across board, not just sickle cell. Anybody has stroke. So you need to find out their strength, their weaknesses, so that you'll be able to have a goal for them and plan for their treatment. If the person is old and the person has to go back to work, we need to understand what kind of schedule will be good, because if you have stroke, we can't leave you in that room and say that you have stroke, just go to physio and come back. You need to go back to work if you are young, right? So aside sickle cell, for children who have stroke, we need to find out, do a neuropsych, know the goals for them, their challenges, their strength, so that we can draw a program for them, and also liaise with their school to see how they can go back to school and they can do well in school, have remedial programs for them. So that is where a psychologist comes in. But the bulk of the work is to, and not just that individual, but the caregiver.
Okay.
You know, sometimes we tend to ignore them, but they are so stressed up. Because you have a child who is living sickle cell today, that you need help, you need psychological help. So that is where we come in with coping strategies, and there are a lot of coping strategies that has worked, especially for sickle cell patients. The first thing is when they accept their condition. So when the mother also, or father, or the caregiver also accepts it, and sometimes they also have this burden of unforgiveness. You know, they can't forgive themselves. They are like, oh, I didn't know, and I didn't know I was a carrier, and I married somebody also a carrier, and we gave birth. No, you have to forgive yourself. If you don't forgive yourself, that strength will not be there for you to take care of that beautiful baby, because it doesn't matter whether they have sickle cell or not. If they get the care from you, the love, such that you take them to the hospital, make sure that they are taking their medication, they are going for routine, that child will live. That child would live and fulfill their purpose with the quality of life, and not just impact the nation, but be part of global development. So that's what I believe in.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's I believe that's the reason why you formed this Global Alliance for Sickle Cell Diseases organization. You know, to talk about all these things, and also to advocate for sickle cell management. Tell us, you have an upcoming conference.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
I wasn't the only one that formed the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease organization. We were a group of passionate advocates from Australia, from Canada, from US, from Europe, from Middle East, from Africa. I was the only one then that represented. And we thank Novartis so much for this, because our first meeting was in London. When we met, we were about 20 advocates, and we were so passionate. So out of that came the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease organization, and it is the umbrella for all sickle cell support, patient support groups globally, worldwide. Okay, and we've been in existence for more than 2 years, and we believe that when it comes to sickle cell advocacy, US is doing great, Canada is doing great, Europe, they are doing great. But what about Africa? Africa is being left behind, not because we don't have partners or stakeholders. So we want to see how we can help everybody. As I said, we are looking at maybe a world where no matter where you are born in this world, you'll be diagnosed early, and treatment will start early, and there will be equitable access to care, right? Such that a child living in the US receives care just the same way a child living in Ghana or a village somewhere. Okay, so that is why we came together, because we felt that having a unified voice, one voice, with a concerted effort, with a good strategy, we will be able to carry everybody on our shoulders. So this conference is for everybody. Okay, sickle cell started. There's this perception that sickle cell left the shore of Africa 400 years ago, and 2019 was the exact 400 years when the first slave ship left Africa to Virginia, Jamestown, in the US. So it is so significant for us. It's just that COVID took over. So we wanted to do this conference somewhere 2020, but then COVID took over. So we want to have this conference now. And it's for patients. In fact, we wanted it to be hybrid. So we're all coming back to where sickle cell originated, West Africa. But then because of COVID, around December, January, COVID was really high in Ghana. So they said, okay, let's do it virtual because we have a very delicate population, which is the sickle cell patient. So we are going to have it virtually. Okay, and it's good for patients, it's good for caregivers, it's good for researchers, it's good for health professionals, it's good for public health officers, it's good for government officials, because I call it sickle cell 101. Is from pathophysiology to coping. Everything in there, even the stem cell thing that you talked about, even why blood donation is very important, even why mental health is an issue that we have to take a look at. All the coping strategies, all the clinical manifestations, you will learn it so that you'll be able to know what sickle cell is and have what I call empathize with people living with sickle cell disease. Have a human face to take care of people living with sickle cell disease. We
really run out of time and we have to wrap up.
So it is on the 20th to the 22nd and it's virtually. And if you go on our website, the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease Organization, you have the link there, you can register and participate. It's free for patients, so all patients living in sickle cell living with sickle cell disease in Ghana is free. Just participate. And also if you connect from Ghana, if you register, they will give you data for you to be able to participate in the 3 days. Participate, encourage your friends, your relatives to also participate so that they can learn more and help you better, because support is good.
We thank you so much, Dr. Mary Equia from Ampoma. She's the CEO of the Global Alliance of Sickle Cell Disease Organization, and as she said earlier, it's a global organization.
Our headquarters is in Canada.
Okay, and and there's an upcoming conference inviting everyone to join, because sickle cell, like it or not, is a public health concern, and the more you know, the better you are able to manage it. Thank you so much for joining us. Those who called to contribute, we are so grateful that you did. Thank you so much. See you same time. My name is Sarah Furi. See you same time on Monday.